Hey guys, what's going on? This is Ed from VinylAlbumCovers.com. Yes, I am wearing my pajamas. And yes, you are getting a brand new episode of Slept On. You know what we do with Slept On, don't you? We talk about songs by artists that you might have missed. Well, in this particular instance, you missed both. There's a fairly good chance that you have no idea who this group is, and you certainly don't know what this song is. And the truth is, it's not even your fault. I'll explain. So, in 1975, there was a group called Kaleidoscope. You already know the name of the group. I mean, you did click on the video, didn't you? So, right, so Kaleidoscope, name of the group. So, Kaleidoscope features the following people. Yeah, I'm cheating a little bit. It features Hazel Moore, Derek Culler, Sylvia Walker, James Perry, and Thomas Harrington, or Tommy Harrington as they called him. It was made up of these fine individuals, excellent singers, one and all, and they all came together to create music. Now, all of their music was supplied by the Baker Harris and Young camp. If you've seen, there was an episode of Slept On that I did about the Temptations, one of those, and I talked about my love, darn near obsession with anything Baker Harris and Young. I absolutely love Norman Harris, Ron Baker, and Earl Young as producers. It's the greatest production team ever in life. Nothing beats that sound. And there are very few songwriters that beat out the team of Norman Harris and Alan Felder. I would put Ron Tyson up in that echelon too. Ron Tyson's in the Temptations now and has been for many, many years, since the early 80s, but he's every bit the incredible writer that Alan Felder and Norman Harris were. Yeah, may they rest peacefully. Same is true, unfortunately, for Tommy Harrington, who's in Kaleidoscope. But at any rate, I'm an absolute sucker for that sound, and so I kind of tend to hunt down anything that sounds that has that sound, anything that they're on, and I have been rewarded more times than I care to count. I mean, I ran into Bingo by the Whispers. I did one of the very first Slept On episodes. We talked about Broken Home. That whole album is absolutely incredible, and it's all Baker Harris and Young, all of it. My favorite Temptations album ever is an album that about 5 people bought. I'm one of those 5 people. And it was the Here to Tempt You album. And it's incredible. Like, everything on that album is fire. Even the stuff that Ron Kersey did. Ron have mercy, Kersey. It rhymes. But I absolutely love that sound. And any album that has that sound on it, if I know that they've produced it, I'm going to buy it, because I've never once have I been let down. I can't say that for any other production team. And this is kind of another one of those situations. So I remember years and years and years ago, sheesh, I can't even remember how long it's been. But I ran into, in my search for Baker Harris and Young stuff, I ran into this single on eBay, of all places. There was this guy, and I forget who it was now, who used to sell, and he's probably still there, but he used to sell like 45s, specifically kind of esoteric 45s at very inflated prices. And the quality was not always the best either from this guy. I think his name was Craig or something, Craig Moore, I think was his name. I forget now, but I think that was it. But he used to sell these things at fairly inflated prices. But I recall seeing one of them there, and I gave in, and I got it just because it said Norman Harris and Alan Felder. And it was the 45 for the song that we're about to talk about. And I got it here, and the quality wasn't amazing. It had problems. And I think I'd spent like $40-something on it. This is just proof of the fact that Baker Harris and Young don't let me down. As a music lover, I'm never let down by that combination. I'm even willing to spend ducats to get their stuff. Like, yeah, it's like that. So don't call me obsessed. I hear you. Stop it. Stop it now. Focus, focus, focus on what we're doing here. Stay with me. We're here, okay? We're here. Um, so anyway, so I found another copy of it for a lot less money and in significantly better shape. Um, and I just started collecting the things that I could find. Now you can actually see one of them on the screen here next to me. This is the 45 as it appears for We're Not Getting Any Younger. And if you look at it, you'll notice that it's a demonstration copy. And so you may be thinking, well, why are you just showing me this? Is there a retail copy of it? There's not. In fact, there were, let's see, there was We're Not Getting Any Younger. There was Thank You. There was I'm a Changed Person. And there was I Want to Live for You. There were those four songs that were on 245s. There were A's and B sides. I forget what the plug side was for each one. I know We're Not Getting Any Younger was the plug side. I think Thank You was on the back of it. I think. Yeah, it was. It was on the back of it. But it's every bit as good. It's like a double A side to my ears anyway. Um, but all of this stuff only surfaced on promo 45s, on these demonstration 45s. They never came out as retail copies. Weird, right? I mean, it would make sense if this was like, like 2005 or something like that, when record companies were beginning to get stingy. But this wasn't 2005, this was 1975. Record companies back then, certainly Philly International and TSOP, et cetera, it's all the same thing. But they were willing to take chances back then. They made their decisions purely based on music. So I do find it rather interesting that this never came out as a retail single and that Kaleidoscope never made an album either. I don't know what happened there. Somebody far more knowledgeable about Kaleidoscope would have to tell us. The information about Kaleidoscope is in fairly short supply. I did find years ago, I found a Facebook page. If you type in Kaleidoscope TSOP, you'll run into a page that's dedicated to them. It's got really cool photography, and it's got like promo photos, one of which I used for the single. There are others there too. And you'll note that as of just a few years ago, there was a version of them that was actually still out there making music. So that's kind of cool. I didn't realize that until I found the Facebook page. But other than that, and I mean, I gave you the group names, and I had to search for those because I just didn't know. But a lot of that stuff is it's just kind of, there's just not very much information on them. Maybe somebody will do us a solid, like when we were talking about, for example, remember Dre Allen dropped in, and who was a lead singer in the group and kind of gave us some more information. And so hopefully that'll happen. That would be nice. I'm not going to hold my breath, but yeah, it would be nice. But at any rate, what we want to do now, as I feverishly pull out my earbuds, the greatest earbuds ever. No, I'm not being paid to say this. I just love these earbuds. I'm going to shove them in my ear because we need to listen to something. I need to prove my point about Baker Harrison Young, and darn it, I'm going to do it. And you're going to sit there and listen, and you really want to, because this is an absolutely amazing song. So now we're going to give some attention to We're Not Getting Any Younger by Kaleidoscope, released back in 1975. So let's have a listen, shall we, kids? Okay, so we're going to start listening in 3, 2, 1.
crossed my mind.
So good. I mean, come on, right? So there is so very much to say about this. So, okay, I was trying to kind of keep track in my mind um, of what, like all the things I wanted to say. I'm trying not to talk in videos. I say that a lot, don't I? That I'm not trying to talk in videos, and I don't. Um, but it does force me to kind of keep all this stuff in mind. So, okay, so the first thing I noticed with that song, um, and I notice it with all Baker Harrison Young things, is that, and maybe this is just my opinion, but usually what we end up with in songwriting is that the chorus of the song is more interesting than the verses. It's universally that way, um, because the chorus is referred to as the hook, and it's supposed to, well, hook you. It's supposed to get your attention. Um, and so that's supposed to be the most interesting part of the song. Generally, like record execs or even the rest of us, even us, normal human beings, it's like we'll move to the chorus, listen to the chorus and see if we like it, and then, we'll take in the rest of the tune. You've heard the phrase, like, don't bore us, get to the chorus. Like, that didn't come from nowhere. And so, when you consider kind of what popular songwriting is, generally the chorus is the most interesting thing. Um, that is not really the case with Baker Harrison Young stuff. At least I don't think it is. It's certainly not the case when Alan Felder and Norman Harris collaborate. What we end up with there is that the verses and the choruses, it's like it's flipped. For me, like the verses, melodically speaking and chordally speaking, are actually more interesting than the choruses for me. I mean, I love the choruses. No shade to the choruses of any of these tunes, but like I think the melody and the chord changes in the verses are more interesting. Like I like them better. Like the verses hook me with that stuff. And I mean, even if you think about like the stuff that was on the Temptations record that they did, or the Tramp stuff that they did, or the stuff that was on the Whispers album, um, like, yeah, it's always the verses that interest me more. Or like they'll have like this really cool B section in them, like Broken Home does. Living in a foster home, feeling like he's all alone. Excuse the bad pitch. It's like 6:30 in the morning. But yeah, like that's despite the way I sang it. That's an interesting progression. It's just a B section in the tune. Um, and the chorus is good too. It's obviously a great chorus, um, but it's like they'll throw stuff in there like that. But to me, the verses are always more interesting than the choruses with their stuff. So it's kind of like writing upside down. But I love it. I'm not complaining. Um, and certainly with this song, like I said, I feel that the verses are more interesting than the choruses even are, as good as the choruses are. I love that little bar of two they keep shoving in there during the choruses too. That's really cool. It gives it kind of a rock, which I like. It just emphasizes the groove, makes it even groovier than it would be otherwise. So it's just beautifully written. Um, just a masterclass in writing the song. Um, and there's so much going on in it. I mean, it's just this is a big just wall of stuff. There's a lot going on in it. Of course, there's a rhythm section. The string section is large. There's an ARP 2600 in it, which is a synthesizer at the time. I think that's what made that's what created that solo. Right under it just crossed my mind. Like, yeah, I love that. Um, I love Earl Young's drumming, and he very much has a thing that he does. Um, if you listen, like his fills are not ornate. His fills, they're just straight like snare hits, you know. Do, 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 you know, there's just not much going on. He doesn't like go for a tom roll or anything like that on the way to a cymbal crash. It's just snare, and then accented sometimes with a crash, but not always. Um, or like at the very end of the tune, he kind of threw one in as an accent, but he's a groovy drummer. Like he's got a great pocket, but he just doesn't need to rely on all that complication to groove, to hit that pocket. So he doesn't. He really loves his snare, and stays on it just throughout the tune and doesn't really use his toms, which is kind of interesting too. So it's a unique approach to drumming and a simplistic approach to drumming, but it totally works. Um, and it's not as simple as it sounds really either. It just comes across as simple, but he's a great drummer. Still doing it today, if I'm not mistaken. Still doing it. Let's see what else. I love the Norman Harris guitar lines in it. He played this cream colored, I think it was this cream colored Fender Stratocaster, um, and I mean he plays incredible rhythm lines. Just an incredible player, um, and always plays the right thing. Very tasteful stuff. Just a great player. I know I'm getting kind of granular here, but there's a reason for it. The bass line's great. I love the fact that the vocal isn't perfect. I mean, it's great. It's a great vocal. For real, for real. Like that lead vocal is fire. But there's a part of it, um, it's in the second verse. It's right at the beginning of the second verse. We graduated, said goodbye. Like it's off. It's not off that way, but it's a little bit sharp because the singer is forced to transition from his falsetto into his full voice, into his full voice. I said what I said, in order to get that across, and his transition from there through his passaggio is a little off in that moment. So it's not perfect, and I love the fact that it's not perfect, and I love that they didn't fix it. All of my favorite stuff in music has kind of funny notes in it, where stuff's not exactly perfect. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are great at this, especially with regard to the stuff they did with Janet Jackson. A lot of that stuff, um, like Escapade has some, like in the B sections of Escapade, she never hits that top note, in the B sections. She's always a little flat on it. She's always a little under, and they did nothing to fix it. And it doesn't have to be fixed because it feels good. Like if it feels right, why fix it? Um, what was that? Runaway. That was another one where she does that. I remember it's kind of towards the end of the tune. She's doing, and I just know we'll have a good time. That pitch hungriness at 6:30 in the morning. But yeah, there's one time where she goes a little under it when she's coming off of it, because that's a bit of an interval. And I just know we'll have a good time. That's a little bit of an interval. And then she goes, didn't quite hit the note. That wasn't such a good time. And she just makes a joke of it. And I love that that's in there. Like it's first of all, it's so Janet, and it's such a Jam and Lewis thing to do, to just let that stuff ride. And she just emphasized it. She's like, you know what, whatever, I missed the note. And it's just fun because the song itself is fun. It's a great song. Love Runaway. But yeah, I love it when producers leave kind of like the dodgier notes in there. As long as the whole thing's not that way, that's fine. But an occasional dodgy note, I'm perfectly fine with. And I love the fact that Norman Harris left that dodgy note in there. Why fix it? There's no reason to. I don't think there's a reason to anyway. In fact, it helps the energy of the tune. So I love when producers don't fix stuff like that. Um, and of course that's not going to happen anymore. I mean, every edge is sanded down these days, and auto-tune or Melodyne is applied. But these were the days, man. Like, when it was just, musical decisions were made, um, and things didn't have to be so perfect. There was no such thing as auto-tune and Melodyne and Beat Detective and stuff like that. These things just didn't exist. Um, but I mean, when you've got Earl Young as a drummer, which you need Beat Detective for anyway, like for real, for real. Let me see, was there anything else? Yes, the backgrounds, the counter melodies that are weaving in and out. I mean, there's just so much going on in this record. It just, my gosh. I don't know how this didn't work. I really don't. There's another one that they did called "I Want to Live for You." I mean, for real, like all four of them. I mean, to my ears, back in 1975, like I can't imagine why all of these weren't hits. I mean, I could very easily do this whole episode on all four of them. Like I'm tempted to play all of them for you, for real, for real. Um, I'm not going to do it though, dang it, because I don't want to make this go on forever. We're already like 20 minutes in now, but yeah, go check those out, because they're all just amazing. Like "I'm a Changed Person" is great. "Thank You" is great, just a gorgeous ballad. "I Want to Live for You" is fun. It's just great songs, just such great songs. Just yeah, some of my absolute favorites, and they exist on Demonstration 45s. That's the only place you can find them. So I was telling you that a long time ago, back when this video began, back in 1923, it's not that long, is it? But I grabbed this 45. I found it from a seller on eBay. And when I got it, I questioned whether or not it was even played. But it did need some help, such as it was. I mean, these things were done on this old TSOP was distributed by Columbia, Epic, CBS, and Columbia and Epic and CBS didn't always use vinyl. Thankfully, I think mine are, but or at least a couple of them are. But sometimes they use something called styrene, which is a cheaper alternative, and things didn't sound very good. I remember my mom had this 45 of "My Life" by Billy Joel, and it was done on Columbia. It was styrene, and it sounded terrible. So styrene is the devil, but I seem to recall that "We're Not Getting Any Younger" is also styrene. I'd have to go to my box of 45s and check. So it needed some help in the high end, just a little bit. It needed a little bass, so I ripped all that stuff, copied it over from my turntable, and no, I didn't do it USB style. Like I did it analog. It went all analog into the computer, into Adobe Audition, and I fixed it there. And no, it wasn't Adobe Audition. It was something else. I did because it was years ago. Cool Edit Pro. That's what it was. Yeeks, because Adobe ended up buying Cool Edit Pro. You don't care about this, do you? I can see on your face you don't. But yeah, so I remastered it and fixed it and fixed it up and made it sound good and got rid of some of the ticks and pops. I manually did that. I didn't let the algorithm in the software do it. When you play a record, you get ticks and pops. Shut up, Ed. You know what I mean. But I got rid of all that stuff. So the version that you're hearing is the cleanest version of that song that I've heard. And that's not a pat on the back for me or anything like that. I'm just, I wanted it to sound great. And this is the copy that I've been listening to for ever, like at least the last 15, 20 years now. So it's just, the song is just ridiculous, and I can't believe that it didn't even get a commercial release. That's so weird to me. If they did a record, I mean, if they did an album, I would have bought it. I don't know what happened there. I'd love to know. If you know anything, like, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to know more about what happened there, because they're great. They were so good. Like, tale as old as time, right? Anyway, thank you very much for watching yet another episode of Slept On. Much appreciated. As always, I've actually been thinking about covering the song like since Slept On began, but I wondered if anybody would be interested or if anybody would watch. So if you're watching, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. This channel is not about, I'm not trying to be commercial. I'm not trying to get like 1,000 views on a video or anything like that. I'm just, I'm being kind of self-absorbed, number one. Number two, I want to share music with you. Like, I want to share stuff with you that I've heard over time, and even if it's kind of rare and esoteric like this is, if it's great, I want to share music. I offer you music. Like, that's what the whole point of this channel is. So I have noble intentions. um, even if there's some videos that kind of just aren't getting love lately, because the Ralph Tresvant video did well, but Terry Tate's not doing so hot, and there are a couple of other things that just haven't hit. That Chocolate Milk song that I did a long time ago just got absolutely no love, but that song is great. So there's a couple things that on the channel, if you notice, if you kind of scan through, you'll see some things that just haven't gotten any love. And I went in, like that UNV song didn't do all that well. But I kind of didn't expect it to, and I didn't expect the other things to, even though I love those songs and I think that they're great, which is all that matters to me, honestly. But I wanted to share those songs with you because I want you to hear them. And if you hear them and really listen to them, I know you'll love them too, because they're great songs. And it's not about me, it's just about how great the tunes are. So darn it, I wanted you to hear them. So I'm not being very commercially minded in my selection of songs for Slept On. I know that. But if nothing else, I hope I'm sharing, great music with you, and I hope you're enjoying, those of you who are watching. And if you know somebody who would enjoy this stuff, share it. Let's get some views up on this thing. You know what I'm saying? There've got to be more people that love stuff like this. There just have to be. I can't be alone. Even though sometimes I feel kind of alone here in my little corner of the world. I know I'm not, but sometimes sometimes it gets to feeling that way. So share the video around. Tell a friend. But again, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it. I've droned on long enough. I've still got more coming. I've got plenty of Slept On episodes to do. My gosh, if you could see the list in my phone. And it grows all the time. Like I literally just added something else last night that I'm probably going to do next. Just because it's fresh on my mind. I'll get to the others too, I promise. I am running out of ideas for Slept On, and I don't even know that I can top Terry Tate. Yeah, I don't know what the way forward is now. I think I've blown my wad. I don't know how to go further with that. I do have a couple of other ones in there, but we'll see. I've done a couple of them back to back now, so it's probably going to take a second. But I'll get to whatever's left, I promise, and I'll probably come up with some more. But at any rate, yeah, I'm going to close this one out, and until the next video, keep listening to great music.